Okay, we're looking at the guided notes for transformations, and here we have four basic problems, and I want to go through the process of transforming each one of these graphs in a way that is clear and organized. And now these are going to be fairly simple. I just want to make sure that we know exactly what the process of handling each one. So with the first one, it asks us to transform the graph 3 units to the right. And essentially what we want to do is we want to take the same graph and move it 3 units over to the right. And in order to do that, I want to do this table of values. So the way I want to handle this is I'm going to have old here, and we're going to put the coordinate points for each one of these as the old. And if we're going to graph 3 units to the right, essentially we're moving each one of these x values 3 units to the right. Are we messing with the y values? No. So here we're going to say x plus 3, comma, y, new. And you go through and we're going to collect these points. So the first point is -9 and 2. So we have -9, comma 2. Our next point is -4, 4. -4, comma 4. And then we have 1, 4, 1, 4. Then we have 2, -2, 2, comma -2. And 4, 2, or comma 2. Okay, so now we know our x values and our y values. And essentially, we're transforming the graph 3 units to the right. So I'm going to add 3 to my x value, and y is going to stay the same. We're not doing anything with y. So I'm going to have -9 plus 3, comma 2. -4 plus 3, comma 4. 1 plus 3, comma 4. 2 plus 3, comma -2. And 4 plus 3, comma 2. So our new points, -9 plus 3 is -6, 2. -4 plus 3 is -1. 4 is our point there. 1 plus 3 is 4, so 4, 4, we get a point there. 2 plus 3 is 5, and our y value is -2. 4 plus 3 is 7, and our y value still is 2. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to do this in a different color other than black. And I suggest for this unit, I suggest we get different colored pens and pencils because whenever we draw the new graph, we want to distinguish which one's which. So I'm going to say this is the blue. This is my blue transformation. Blue. Okay. So my new points are -6, 2. So -6, 2. A point there. -1, 4. So -1 and 4. I got a point there. 4 and 4. So 4 and 4. I got a point there. 5, -2. So 5, -2. I got a point there. And 7, 2. 7, 2. Here we are right there. And with this part, yeah, you want to use a straight edge. So let me get my straight edge out here. All right. So we have moved the graph 3 units now to the right. Perfect. And yes, essentially, we could have just counted those points over, right? 1, 2, 3. Here's my first one. 1, 2, 3. There's my next point. 1, 2, 3. There's my next point. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. The reason why I want to use this chart is for 2 reasons. One, I want to keep myself organized. I want all of my work to be very organized. 2, it's going to get very, very complicated very, very quickly. So make sure when we're doing transformations, make sure that every time you do a transformation, you have some sort of chart that takes old points and transforms them into new points. And essentially, that's what a transformation is. We take old points and we transform them and we make new points out of them. All right, so let's try this one more time. Okay, so we're going to transform the graph 5 units down. So down would be a vertical change, and vertical changes affect the y values. And my x value stays as x, so that stays, comma, my y value, we're going 5 units down, so we want to subtract 5 units, so y minus 5. So it's going to be negative 9, comma, 2 minus 5. Negative 4, comma, 4 minus 5. 1, comma, 4 minus 5. 2, comma, negative 2 minus 5. And 4, comma, 2 minus 5. And that gives us the new points of negative 9 and negative 3. Oh, negative 3. Then we get negative 4, comma, 4 minus 5. And here we get 1, 4 minus 5, that's negative 1. Quit being silly, Mr. Stevens. There you are. And then again, negative 1. And then we have 2, comma, negative 7. And 4, comma, negative 3. So now, I'm going to use green to plot this one here. So now I know my new points are negative 9, negative 3. So negative 9, I know 1, 2, and 3. And then negative 4, negative 1, negative 4, negative 1 is this one right here. 1, negative 1 is this one right here. 2, negative 7. Well, negative 7 is way down there. And 4, negative 3. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 3 is this one right here. Okay, now we need to connect them, and for this, again, you're going to want to use a straight edge. I have my straight edge here, here, there, there. Very good. Because some of the work that we're going to do is we're going to ask you to do multiple transformations of a graph on the same graph. So we want to be able to see what we want to be able to see these transformations. And if you're going to have more than one, it's highly suggested that you use more than one color there. So for this particular one, I used blue for the shift right 3 units, and I used green for the shift down 5 units. Not too bad. All right, well, let's try this. Reflect over the x-axis. Well, here's the x-axis, and if I'm going to reflect over the x-axis, then what changes here? This point would go to this point. My x value doesn't change, but my y value changes, doesn't it? So if I go from here down to here, then my y value goes from 2 to negative 2. This y value go from 4 down to negative 4. So what are we doing? Well, it seems as though we're multiplying everything here. We're multiplying everything here by negative 1. And it's just our y values that we're multiplying by negative 1. So let's get our fancy chart out together. So we'll have negative 9, comma, and then negative 1 times 2. And negative 4, comma, negative 1. Negative 1 times 4. 1, comma, negative 1 times 4. And then we have 2, comma, negative 1 times negative 2. It's essential that we know that that is multiplication there. And then 4, comma, negative 1 times 2. So my new point is -9, -2, -4, -4, 1, -4, 2 and 2, and 4, -2. Again, these are points, and I'm going to, just for these charts, I'm going to stop using the parentheses because I feel like that's making it a little messy. So I'm going to use blue. I'm going to -9, -2. I have that point right here. Again, this is probably where you want to use a straight edge if you have one, and if you don't, we have rulers you can use. Go that point to that point. You go here to here. And that guy goes up here, and that one goes here. So essentially, we've flipped over the x-axis, and wow, it looks like a mirror image across the x-axis, which is good because that's exactly what we wanted. So this has been reflected about the x-axis. Okay, so now if we try to do the same thing with reflection about the y-axis or over the y-axis, then what do you bet we multiply our x values by -1s? We'll have -1 times -9, comma 2, and then -4 times -9, comma 4. Ooh, that was silly, Mr. Stevens. It's -1 times -4, -1 times 1, -1 times 2, and -1 times 4. Sorry. Now notice again, our y values didn't change here. So my new points, I'm going to have 9, 2, and 4, 4, -1, 4, -2, -2, and -4, 2. Yeah, so it's not perfect, but hopefully you get the idea. The blue is when I reflected the original graph over the x-axis, and the green is when I flipped the original graph over the y-axis. I hope you get the idea of how to use the chart using the old values as the old points, the process that we're going to use in the middle, and then our new points here. So whatever transformation we have, we want to show that work in our middle part of the chart. Again, this seems as though it's something you should be able to look at and do. However, I need you to understand that showing your work here is going to help whenever these get very confusing and complicated later on. Now there's two more that we have on here where we stretch the graph vertically by a factor of 2. And for that, in our chart here, vertically, our vertical values are the y values. So x doesn't change, but we're stretching by a factor of 2, so I'm going to multiply all my y values by 2. So I'm going to have 2 times y. And here I'm going to compress vertically by a factor of 1/2. Again, vertical changes do not affect my y values. They do, however, affect my, they don't affect my x values, they do affect my y values. So here I'm going to multiply all my y values by 1/2 times y. So that should get you going for the chart. Again, same old points, except for our new points are going to be a little bit different. And then for the last graph, it says stretch the graph horizontally by a factor of 2. So what do you bet that affects the x-axis? Good, 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 good. So in your chart there, again with your old here, we're going to have 2 times x. Our y value is not changed. And then you'll have your new points. And for the last chart, we'll have 1/2 times x comma y. And there'll be your old numbers, your old points here, and your new points here.